All right. Welcome this morning. This is the kind of letter that I get constantly, the one I'm about to share with you. It's not my boss is a total monster story. It's more of, hey, my boss is less than ideal. And so I want to share this with you because I think it reflects what a lot of us end up going through in the workplace. Um, it starts like this. Uh, Dan, I don't think I hate my job, but I'm starting to really dislike my boss. And I feel guilty even saying that. They're not a bad person. They're not yelling or anything like that, but every interaction just leaves me feeling drained. It's little things, the tone in meetings, the way feedback is delivered, the constant sense that nothing is ever quite good enough. I've noticed I'm starting to avoid them. I'll delay sending updates or hope that they don't ask me questions in meetings. That's not who I want to be at work. The problem is, I actually like the company. I like the work. I even like most of my coworkers, but my boss is making it harder and harder to stay engaged. At what point do you accept that this isn't a good fit? And how do you know if it's worth trying to fix versus just moving on? So, yeah, it's a great question. There is no clear answer. I've been writing a few notes down as I contemplated this letter, and honestly, um, I need you to know that what you're going through is something that so many, I think literally millions of people are going through something similar. Every now and then we have a supervisor or a leader or a boss who is just an amazing person who inspires us continuously and keeps us going forward. But honestly, there are a lot more less than great bosses in the world than there are great bosses. So, most likely, just through the law of averages, you are likely to either currently be or eventually be with a not so great boss. And the drain is real. The drain is absolutely real. You're not imagining it, um, because we have this unconscious, sometimes conscious, expectation for what we want from our leaders, what we want from our bosses, what we want them to pull us forward. It's probably deeply psychological. We probably want from them what we didn't get from our fathers or mothers or parents. Or maybe we want from them what we did get and what we're no longer getting. So there's probably some deep psychological need, but the avoidance that you describe, it's a way of protecting your own nervous system. It's every time you engage with them, you feel a sense of disappointment, a sense that this isn't what I want. It's almost like, if you've ever been through a relationship breakup, when you get to that phase where you've recognized, oh, this is either not the person I thought they were, or the situation isn't what I thought it was going to be in terms of the romantic relationship. Um, you start to back away, you start to shut down, and you start to consciously spend less time with them. That is your nervous system protecting yourself. And the fact that you feel a bit of guilt is really a great sign. That says to me, you still have a bit of empathy for the people at work, even for the other person. And I'm reading this here. You said, "That's not who I want to be at work." I would hold on to this sentence because that is the healthiest thing in this whole letter. So I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong to feel this. I want to help you do something with it, starting with a hard truth about all of us. Um, If you pay close attention to what's been happening, perhaps over the last 10 years, Amazon has had an effect on all of us, at least those of us who purchase from Amazon, which tends to be all of us. Um, on Amazon, you can get exactly what you want. If you find a pair of shoes and they're not quite the right style, you want something a little bit different, you can search and search and search and search, and Amazon will eventually offer up to you exactly what you want in exactly the right size, in exactly the right style, with a decent price and decent quality. The days of having, if you've heard the old phrase, "Hey, you can either have it high quality or fast or cheap, but you can't have all three." I don't think that's true anymore, and at least in terms of our expectations. The fact that we live in a world where there are so many options available to us and we can pick and choose and get exactly what we want. I think when it comes to people in our lives, that's also happened to us. On social media, you are fed so many different kinds of people. It's easy in a relationship to start to say, well, you know what? He's he's not so much this, and I'd like someone a little more of that. Or she's great, but she's not quite exactly what I'm looking for. It's easy to have very, very high expectations of others in this Amazon-driven world where we're given choices. We're given tons and tons and tons of choices. And so I would ask you at first, as you start to think about, I'm not saying that your standards are too high. I'm not saying that you're asking too much, but I am saying that because Amazon gives you exactly what you want, it's also true that a career almost never does. A job almost never does. And part of being a grown-up professional is just recognizing the hard choices that have to be made, recognizing that, okay, sometimes compromise is necessary. Now, I don't want to let your boss off the hook, but I think it's true that sometimes we do have to make choices and we do have to give people a bit of empathy and recognize not everyone is going to be the perfect version of we're expecting from them in their role in our lives. So I'm not telling you to accept a bad boss. I want to be clear about that. I'm telling you to notice when you're holding a real job to an Amazon like standard or a real person to an Amazon like standard. So I read the letter back and I'm recognizing that within this letter, you like the work, you like the company, you like most of the coworkers. That's 3 out of 4. That ain't bad. I talk to people every week who would love to have just one of those things. You've got the trifecta, and that is not a bad place to start from. And anyone can be happy at work when everything is perfect. It takes a real professional to be good and even content when things are less than perfect. So if we can start from there, this is not that we don't do something proactive about this, but I do think we start with what our expectations for the job are and what our expectations for the other person, for the leader are. Don't let one broken thing within a work environment blind you to all of the great things that are really working for you. I'm not saying be grateful, although gratitude is not a bad thing. I'm just saying do the math and recognize, 80% of a job working out well is not the same as 0% or 10%. And you're probably gonna hate this part, but let's just take a moment to have some empathy for the boss. Um, Nobody, and I mean nobody, wakes up saying, "All right, today I'm going to be a bad boss. Today I'm going to bore people. Today I'm going to frustrate people. Today I'm going to demotivate people and cause them to disengage from the job." Nobody decides that. With that said, there are plenty of bad bosses, and there are plenty of people who arrive in the job, arrive in the workplace, and ultimately have that effect on others. But we have to acknowledge it's not intentional. That's not part of their plan. And in many cases, they don't even recognize who they are or recognize the impact that they're having on people. I believe every leader, or let's say, just to be accurate, almost every leader wants to be a good leader. So when one falls short, and they do fall short constantly, that gap should prompt it can prompt a lot of reactions. In the case of your letter, that gap is creating frustration. It's prompting impatience. It's prompting dissatisfaction, all of which are reasonable. But maybe it can also prompt curiosity. Uh, Curiosity changes how we perceive frustrating situations. If something's occurring and you choose curiosity as your emotional response, like your primary emotional response, when you choose curiosity versus choosing anger, frustration, doubt, cynicism, whatever, curiosity produces just a different mental state and it causes your mind to go down a different path in terms of seeing what's really happening perhaps behind the curtain. So when you ask yourself curiously, I wonder what issues are pressing on them. I wonder what pressures they're experiencing. I wonder who's on their back. I wonder how much is going on with them, either here in the workplace or outside of the workplace. Um, are they terrified of missing their numbers or other metrics? W How did they learn to become this leader? Who was their model for leadership, and how did they become this? Now, I'm not saying you will instantly have all the answers and, that it'll all come to you, but that sense of curiosity and then the observation that comes from curiosity is much more likely to lead you to a clear-eyed decision, because ultimately this letter is about a decision. Do you decide to stay and find a way to either accept things as they are, or change things, or do you start to move on? And maybe that's not the right question. Um, when your manager does the thing that kind of sets you off, or does one of the many things that sets you off, it creates an emotional response from you: frustration, judgment, annoyance, as I said. And here's the trap: whenever that emotion fires first, whenever you instantly sense the frustration, your mind will find ways to validate that emotion. So a thing happens, you get triggered, you feel an emotion, and then your mind quickly searches for all the things that validate that. So then everything that comes out of that manager's mouth during this meeting or during this session or conversation, you're going to find a way to validate that. And so we have to focus in on that moment of, I'll use the word trigger, that moment of initial emotional response, because it sets the tone for everything that comes after that. So, in that moment, when you recognize yourself, manager says something dumb, and you start to roll your eyes, and at least roll your eyes on the inside, and feel a bit of tense frustration. That's the magical moment where you can make a choice. You can. I sometimes have post-it notes around me with words on them, helping me to choose specific emotions, because I am famous for getting frustrated. I'm famous for getting angry. I intensely get triggered when people do either dumb things or wrong things or hurt others in the course of doing whatever they're doing. And I have to remind myself that not only does no leader set out to be a bad leader, no coworker sets out to be a bad coworker. No human actually sets out to be a bad human. I have to recognize that, or let's say very few. There are a few that seem to have a real intentionality about being a bad human, but they are the rarity. They're not the commonality. And so if I can remind myself for uh, a long time, I had a post-it note that just had one word on it: bemusement, because I wanted to remind myself that the next time someone does something really dumb, really off, I could choose bemusement over frustration. I could choose bemusement over cynicism, or bemusement over feeling superior, or feeling angry, or whatever. And actually, that choice of bemusement is closely aligned to curiosity. I think curiosity is a better choice, because if I can get curious about why this happens, I am more likely to ask questions. I'm more likely to observe. I'm just going to learn more from that particular situation. And so, in addition to thinking about that initial emotion that you experience when the manager does something, um, let's talk about what can happen over time if you choose something different. If your emotional response, as it appears to be, is continuously frustration, manager does something, says something, something happens, and you feel frustrated. That sense of frustration can definitely lead down the path of you being the complainer, the doubter, the cynical one. Um, and generally, what happens from there is that you seek out other people. You can easily, if you're not thoughtful about it, you can become that person who finds someone in the break room, or finds someone, one of your colleagues, where you may meet online and have one-on-one conversations online about how terrible he is or how frustrating he is. And you will find people who share your frustrations. You will find people who share all of the bad stuff, and then you can become, over time, you become that doubter. You become that cynical person. You become the complainer, and it's not good. It's not good for you. It doesn't do any good for the workplace. And you know what it's like when you're not that person. And I ask you, well, who in your workplace, who's the complainer? Who's the doubter? Who's the cynic? Who's the dark energy in your workplace? If it ain't you, you can probably instantly think of the person who it is. I don't think you want to be that person. I don't think ultimately that's good for you. It's not good for anybody. And so, in helping you to choose your instinctive emotional response in that moment of triggering, it's a learned skill. It's a technique that you do acquire over time. It is not something that's going to come easy or natural, because the sense of frustration comes natural. The sense of curiosity is something you have to be very intentional about. But complaining about your boss behind their back, it can feel like relief, but it's actually corrosion. It's corroding your spirit in the workplace. And then you end up corroding the spirit of others if you start to spread it around and you start to share it around. It eats at your development, not theirs. So this is about you and what is best for you. And so you have a boss that ain't great, is oftentimes much less than great, but let's focus on you and what's the best development of you. And I would say development starts with that reaction of curiosity. Curiosity leads you to wonder, how did he or she get this way? What are the pressures on him or her? Um, and eventually you can ask yourself the question, at what point do you accept that this isn't a good fit? Because that was the direct question that you asked. How do I know if it's worth fixing versus worth moving on? And honestly, right now, I don't have enough information. I would be doing you a disservice if I were to say, oh yeah, based on what you told me, you should definitely cut bait and move on. You're going to have to make that choice. You're going to have to make that decision. But I would gently suggest that before you make that choice, you practice this intentional curiosity skill, because it will give you access to more information. It'll give you access to new insight. Um, it also can be helpful to separate the boss from the job. Understand that not every supervisor situation is permanent. There is always change happening in the workplace. So, if truly this one individual is the only thing that's getting in the way of you having an amazing work experience on the job, maybe it's just give it time, because that person will eventually move on. Or now that's not always true. There are some workplaces and some environments where you just know, uh, people don't move on. People are here for in their roles for 5, 10, 20 years. So that certainly could be the place. But I would also ask, rather than just waiting it out, have you actually tried to fix it? Might it be worth one authentic conversation with this person, um, just as a marriage therapist or a relationship therapist might start by saying, okay, you've shared all of these frustrations. Have you shared them with him or with her? Oftentimes, therapists will tell you the answer is no, that's all been on the inside. And a therapist in some cases will say, let's start with an open, authentic sharing. What some people call the airing of the grievances. And that's not really what I'm saying. I'm saying taking a moment with empathy to share what you're experiencing. I would suggest, though, spending some time in curiosity first, observing carefully, getting a better sense of what's really happening and what's really driving the behavior of your boss, and then leading that into perhaps one authentic conversation, one meeting of the minds, where you express what and you can start with you. You can say, "Hey, I feel the need to have a conversation with you because I've been getting further and further, more and more disconnected from the job, and I can't blame it all on you or in any one thing, but I do want to express some of the things that have been itching at me, annoying me, and an open expression of what you are experiencing. Now, I won't say that's always good advice because you can't assume that the environment is always safe. So the leader's reaction, the boss's reaction to an open sharing will be very telling. Absolutely very, very telling. Some bosses will definitely appreciate it. Some will be hurt. Some will be offended. Some themselves will be curious about what you're sharing and will want to know more, will want to explore it more. Um, but also, some will be annoyed, frustrated, angry, and in fact, there may be a price to pay. So I never want to say to somebody, "Yeah, yeah, just share what you're thinking openly. Assume the environment is safe. Assume there won't be a downside." You have to be thoughtful about anything that you share in the workplace. But in general, I might say set a window for yourself, a 60 to 90-day window. Perhaps for the next 60 days, you're going to be intensely curious about all of the things that are happening with the boss. You're going to pay closer attention. You're going to watch behaviors. You're going to watch how the boss interacts with others. Is it just you or is it everybody or is it the entire situation? So you're going to focus in on getting more information about this situation for the next 60 days. And then that may lead you to the full, open, authentic conversation with the boss. And that airing of the situation may help. Um, Now it may hurt, as I said. So you have to be thoughtful about how you do this, but it may help. Um, and it also may lead you to make that final decision, come to that final realization that, okay, you know what? This situation overall, it ain't right for me. And in that case, then what I would suggest you do is start looking long before you are ready to jump. So I would say, even if you decide, I'm going to spend the next 60 days being curious, gathering more information, taking more in, I would still today, now, start the job search process. Whatever your process is, whatever your methodology is, whether you're using Indeed or LinkedIn or references, referrals, whatever your process is going to be, I would start the process now. I would get your resume polished up now. I would get your LinkedIn profile polished up now and begin the process, because what you don't want to have happen is 60 days from now or 90 days from now, you come to this moment of realization, oh, this is it. I've decided it's time to cut. It's time to go. But you're still there and the job search process is going to take some time. I would much rather you begin that now. So I'm really giving you the guidance to be of two minds. Take action now on your job search without intending to necessarily act on any of it at this point. So you're going to give the job itself and the boss himself or herself a bit more time. You're going to be curious for 60, maybe 90 days. You're going to take more information in. And at the same time, on a completely different level, you're going to be actively putting feelers out there. You're going to be actively sending resumes out. You're going to be actively making connections, and you're going to be curious about that process as well. All of that means you're going to be taking in more information. And I can absolutely guarantee this. If you choose curiosity, if you develop that one, I would almost call it a micro skill. It's a very, and I would say for the next 60 to 90 days, if you practice that micro skill as well, then I can guarantee you 90 days from now, you are in you're a different person. You will be in a better spot no matter what, whether you're still on the job, whether you're actively interviewing for a new job, whatever you've decided, you're going to be in a better place 90 days from now because of that one micro skill applied daily, every single day. And if you're like me, you have to have post-it notes that remind you of, okay, choose this over that. The moment you recognize, and that is the micro skill. Recognize the trigger, and the moment you start to feel frustration, just flip into curiosity, asking yourself, okay, what am I not seeing here? because I know she's not intending to have this effect on others. I know she's not purposefully trying to waste our time or frustrate us or frustrate me. So let me just step back and observe curiously. Let me step back and observe. So that also helps you avoid the knee-jerk response of he's a jerk, she's a moron, he's a what the judgmental responses, they don't serve you, they don't serve others. So that's it for today. Join us again tomorrow, same place, same time, and we will take a new letter and address somebody else's issues. And to the degree we can help, we'll make every possible effort to help. That's all we have for today. If you like this, like, and subscribe, as the kids say, and we'll look forward to doing this again tomorrow.